You're welcome back. Now, it's a sport that commands cult status, has its own terminology with words like kickflips and ollies, and also one where you can get a fair few bumps and bruises.
The world of Irish skateboarding has been captured on film in a new documentary called Hill Street. We're delighted to welcome its director, Rolfe, and one of the legends of Irish skateboarding, Clive, Rowen, to the Morning Show studios. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good morning. Good morning.
Clive, you've been involved in skateboarding for how long?
Since I was a child, really, yeah, which is a good few years ago. And I think it came from a picture I saw in an American magazine of this amazing device. It was like a platform with 4 wheels on,
yeah.
So I got to make one for myself. And
what did you make it with?
Basically just an old piece of timber, 2x4, and a roller skate, one of these adjustable roller skates I had as a kid. So you cut it in 2 and you screw it on one each end, so you had a very basic skateboard.
Did it work?
Oh, just about. Just about. It wasn't very fast, and quite a few falls off.
Yeah, I will imagine when you boarded this self-made skateboard, there wasn't any headgear, arm pads or knee pads.
Not in those days. No, you didn't need anything, so we were all dead safe. No, it was a bit tricky to ride on, all right, but it was good fun.
And were there many people doing it? Because it was huge. It's been huge in the States for decades. How long did it take for it to become popular here then?
Well, in those days, you wouldn't really seen anybody on one, you know.
Even in America?
It was in America you would have, but then the world was a huge place and we didn't really know what was happening over there. And then kind of in the late 70s, early 80s, we started to see pictures turning up and it was starting to pick up a little bit, and I just thought, this is great because this is something I love, so, you know, I started bringing in some skateboards and...
Because you had the bicycle shop on Hill Street.
I started with a bicycle shop. What I always wanted was a skateboard shop, and within a very short time I turned the bicycle shop into a skateboard shop. And then I enjoy going to work on a Monday morning, and I still do, because you know, that's how much I like it.
The story of Irish skateboarding and your huge part and role in it is now in movie form, but it was actually a movie, Back to the Future, that really kicked it off for everybody around the world.
It did in the early days, yeah, because a lot of kids in those days, the hoverboard, this was their first sort of sight of a skateboard. But in more recent times, the likes of Tony Hawk and a lot of the PlayStation games, which involved skateboarding, a lot of kids started there and then thought, you know, maybe we could try this and do it ourselves instead of playing it on a video game. So,
well, JJ, you're the director of this new documentary. Before I chat to you, let's have a look from it.
They tell stories about, you know, in the old days where you used to get a 2x4 and nail a roller skate. We actually did that. My first skateboard was a roller skate, cut in 2, because I remember as a very young kid, my father bought me a pair of these strap-on skates that you could adjust. You'd slip them on over your shoe and that. The funny thing was, when people talk about that, it was true. It did actually happen. So that's my interest started, how fast I could go down a hill.
It's amazing, because I know we have skate parks all around the country now, but my only memory of seeing people skateboarding was either outside the Central Bank on Dane Street in Dublin or Bank of Ireland on Lower Bagot Street. And JJ, your cameras were there capturing these boys at work.
Yeah, it was. Well, we were very lucky because we found there was a lot of people had access to cameras and mostly stills, but one guy in particular had taken an awful lot of video and made it available for us to use in the documentary, and it kind of carried the whole thing along, because it is a very, very interesting story, and just to kind of chart the rise and tell the history of the whole thing through the shop on Hill Street to where we are now is just, it's just been wonderful to have all that old footage there.
Were you able to talk to a lot of the early skateboarders? And besides Clive, was there many around willing to share their story?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, we were actually very, very lucky. Dave, the producer, who he can't be here today, but he had a lot of links into the scene that were still active today, and kind of the best way of describing it, from working on the film, I kind of found that all the people came from a very different background, but came together under this kind of love of skateboarding. So there's a huge range of kind of very different people that were started out in the 80s and grew up together and now still all in touch and still all meet up. So yeah, it was quite easy once we got in to meet them all and kind of...
Yeah.
You also discovered that an awful lot of the people, Clive included, who were skateboarding in the early days are still on boards now.
A lot of them still are, yeah. I was very shocked. I mean that in the best.
Thanks.
Yeah, or mostly we kind of asked in the interviews a lot of questions about if they hadn't been skateboarding, what they'd be doing now, and most of them were kind of lost for words. They didn't know where they'd be or what they'd be doing, but it was just always an outlet for them to try and do something creative, and most of the people have carried that on, whether it's photographers or one of them is a teacher. You know, there's lots of different people that were into it back in the 80s and are still now.
Clive, what's it like for you when you head out to a skateboard park? Because there'll be a fair amount of kids there, because I think we've got 30 odd across the public parks in Ireland now. So you would show up at one or two, just for pleasure purposes.
I don't do it very often, Mark,
okay.
you know.
But when you do...
And it is a bit of a shock when they see somebody. I mean, I was at an indoor park a few months back with my son, who's 23 years old, do you know? And to some people alone saying, is that his dad on a skateboard? Can you really drop in on a ramp?
And you're still pretty, I presume you're, could copy what anyone else was doing these days, or has it advanced that much?
Skateboarding has changed a lot. A lot of the tricks that they do, it's mostly based around skating in the streets now, whereas I enjoyed skating on ramps and things like that. So there's different styles even in skateboarding, you know. I'd be very, very old school, you know. I like the old stuff.
But you brought Tony Hawk's to Ireland.
Yes, yeah. Well, here we had only ever seen pictures of him, and he had a great following.
Explain who he is first, because a lot of I hadn't a clue when I heard who Tony Hawk was.
Well, Tony Hawk is he's an American professional skateboarder. He's just recently retired from professional skateboarding, but he still does demos and things like that. He's probably best known for his connection with PlayStation and the Tony Hawk games.
But he has popped up in all kinds of movies. I saw him in a Disney movie recently, Max Keeble, I think was the name of the movie.
Was he on a skateboard?
And he was on a skateboard.
There's the connection.
But you brought the European Championships to the Old Point.
That's right. Yeah, that was another nice thing to do. But it was really just to show kids, you know, a bit of international skateboarding. So the O2 weekend, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
We had skaters from all over Europe. We took over the place for the whole weekend, and a huge number of people remember that. Anybody who was there, anybody who wasn't there talks about they wish they were there, you know. But that was a great event. That was a great event.
Chichi, are you hoping that this movie will kind of inspire young Irish teens to take it up, the sport? Because, I mean, it's pretty healthy, it's good for you. It probably doesn't cost the earth either.
No, once you're set up, it's pretty easy to go out and just have to, you know, there's huge amounts of public parks available to people. But yeah, I guess we're just trying to tell the story of where this kind of sport that's really recognised now, because a lot of kids these days don't really understand where it came from or how difficult it would have been in the old days. Nowadays you can go anywhere and skate and you won't get any hassle, whereas in the beginning it was very, very different. So it's kind of thanks to people like Clive.
Well, how different? Why were the skateboarders back then viewed as kind of messers and get off the streets? And,
I think so, yeah. From making the film, that was one thing that kind of everybody kind of constantly said, just being chased around town, so going to Bagot Street and getting kicked out and then going somewhere else and getting kicked out. And now there's places like Bushy Park where there's a council-run public park that you can just go to whenever you want. And
big concern, you're a parent,
yes,
but you are safely able to teach your children how to skateboard. I have no balance on ice, let alone a skateboard, so my concerns are always broken bones. So how do you lay those fears for parents?
If you don't break any bones, don't do anything dangerous ever. You know? Anything like that. I mean, you can fall off a bicycle and hurt yourself, you know. In fact, my own son Nathan, who's 23, we were skating at the skate park, he took a fall from a ramp and he blew his knee. He's now waiting for surgery to correct that. Okay. And it's killing him that he can't get back on a skateboard, and that's all he wants to do.
So
you know, so he's driven, you know, but it is dangerous.
Okay. Well,
you can wear pads and stuff. And,
well, among the skateboarding fraternity in Ireland, they know who you are. This documentary is going to elevate that and your profile. JJ, it's getting its premiere here in Ireland when?
On the 19th of February in Cineworld as part of the Jameson Dublin International Film Festival. So really looking forward to that. It's going to be Okay, great to have their support.
And hopefully from there it'll go to other film festivals.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the works. So okay.
And Clive, next time you're in a skateboard park, they'll be bowing down to you.
I'll be keeping a low profile.
Well, listen, many thanks for coming on this morning and telling us all about it.
No problem.
Thanks so much. And don't forget, if you've missed any of the programme, you can catch it online at tv3.ie/3player.
And that's it for today. Coming up tomorrow, we'll be meeting the Dalkey residents who are up in arms over the building of an oil rig off their scenic coastline. They say it's as much a Dublin Bay issue as it is a Dalkey one.
Plus, regaining your positivity, psychologist Maureen Gaffney will be showing us the 8-step plan to feeling happier. But for now, the Midday Girls are up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 11.